In 1986, a philosopher by the name of James Carse theorized these two types of games, finite games and infinite games. A finite game is defined as known players, fixed rules, and an agreed upon objective. Baseball. There's always a beginning, middle, and end, and the objective is to win. Then you have infinite games. Infinite games are defined as known and unknown players. The rules are changeable, which means you can play however you want, and the objective is to perpetuate the game. There's no such thing as winning in an infinite game because there's no finish line. We are players in infinite games every day of our lives. There's no such thing as being number one in your marriage. Like, good luck with that, you know? There's no such thing as winning global politics, and there's definitely no such thing as winning business. There are many players in business, but no one is declared the winner of business, not in any industry ever. But if we listen to the language of so many leaders, they don't actually know the game they're in. They talk about being number one, being the best, or beating their competition. Based on what? Based on what agreed upon objectives? Based upon what agreed upon timeframes? And the problem is when we play in an infinite game, like business, with a finite mindset, trying to be number one, be the best, or beat our competition, there's a few very predictable and consistent outcomes, including the decline of trust, the decline of cooperation, and the decline of innovation, all of which contribute to the weakening of the organization and its more likely demise.
You think all of those come from having this finite mindset?
I think a finite mindset dramatically increases the probability of those things happening, absolutely, yes.
Talk a little bit about what it means what it takes to have this. When you talk about the infinite game, you say that one of the most important things is to have a just cause. We talk a lot at LinkedIn about having a mission statement, about having this mission that we're going after. That's a little bit different in your mind from a just cause. Can you explain what it takes to have a just cause and why it's important?
Yeah, it may or may not be different. The problem with words like vision, mission, purpose, which is they don't have standardized definitions. And so, one vision actually sounds visionary, and another vision sounds like to be the biggest, most successful company in our category by 2020. Right. That's not a vision. And so this goes back to the days of why. When I first articulated the why for the golden circle, the problem was all the other terms didn't have their own had no standard definitions. So we know vision is important, but we don't know what it is, and it's a moving target. So I call it a just cause, a cause so just that we would be willing to sacrifice in order to advance this cause. And so when you run it through that filter, and a company says our vision is to be the most respected company by 2020. Well, is that a cause so just you'd be willing to sacrifice for it? I mean, not really. Right? It's kind of obvious. But when you say our vision is to empower individuals to stand up to Big Brother, that's something I can get behind. That's something I would be willing to sacrifice to advance. And there's simple tests that we can apply to see if a company indeed has a just cause, and more important, if we are believers in that just cause, because we would willingly sacrifice to advance that cause. So sacrifice includes things like working late hours, taking frequent business trips away from your family, maybe even turning down a better paying job somewhere else because you want to keep working here. We don't necessarily like those things. We don't necessarily like all the business trips that we go on, but it feels worth it. We know we could make more money somewhere else, but we're okay because it feels worth it. And if those sacrifices feel worth it, you're willing to sacrifice for something bigger than yourself.
When you talk about what it takes, the five, you say that there hasn't been a definition. You say there are 5 things that you have to have to qualify for a just cause.
Oh yeah, I wrote them in the book, but I don't know what they are.
Okay. This is a good teaser to go get the book. Make sure you get it. It's in there.
I'm happy to read them.
I'll tell you what a couple of them are, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it has to be optimistic.
Yep.
It has to be in service. So when I talk about it being optimistic, it has to be positive. Mm-hmm. It has to be a positive vision of an idealized future, right? It has to be in service to something else, in service to another. In other words, a true just cause can never be for the primary benefit of you. It has to be for the primary benefit of another. You can still benefit. The company and you are allowed to benefit from the advancing of the cause. It can't be the primary reason that you're doing what you're doing. It has to be for the primary benefit of others. What were the 3 others?
There's one that it imagines a future, but it's really a future you can never get to.
Right, it's an idealized state. Yes, that was one of them. So an idealized state means, for example, the United States has a just cause. It was written down for us in the Declaration of Independence. It's that all men are created equal, endowed with certain unalienable rights, amongst which include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our nation has tried for 240 years to try and get closer and closer and closer to that ideal, but we're never going to actually get there. But we'll die trying, and that's the point. And you can see these milestones in our life that give us an indication that we're getting closer, which inspire us to keep fighting. So the abolition of slavery, women's suffrage, civil rights, gay rights. You can see we're working towards this idealized state. He is truly an infinite-minded leader. He came from Boeing Commercial, turned that organization around, was hired to fix a very, very broken company. Ford was heading towards bankruptcy. And as new CEO, what he did was he brought all his senior executives in, and they were used to having these presentations where they would say this, offer the state of their divisions, And so he had one of these meetings, and it was very simple: red, yellow, green. How's your division doing? And every single slide was green from every single executive. And he said, guys, you have to reconcile something for me. You're telling me everything's green, but we're losing money hand over fist. Something's not lining up. The next week, same thing. Every slide was green, and he would say the same thing. Guys, you're telling me everything's fine, but we're losing money hand over fist. And a few weeks in, one executive changed one slide to red. And what he said was, that's great visibility. Thank you for that. Who can help him? Now, the reason they used to do green all the time no matter what is because the previous CEO, if you gave him bad news, you got fired. So the next meeting after this one slide of honesty, everybody was amazed to actually see that guy still sitting at the table.
Mark Fields, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, right. And slowly but surely, they started to get an honest picture of what was going on in the company. And what Mullally did that was so different than the previous CEO is the previous CEO would blame you. You are the problem if the slide is red. In this case, Mullally said, as you said, we have a problem. You are not the problem. So how do we fix the problem that we have? The problem with addiction is addicts know that it's bad for them. Like, there are plenty of alcoholics who know that what they're doing is unhealthy, but they're addicted, which is why they keep doing it. I think many of us can admit that what we do is unhealthy and that it is addictive, and we may be addicted. The question is, are we putting ourselves through a regime to try and kick the addiction? So I think, we're past the first step. We've admitted we've had a problem. We've got 11 steps to go.
Right.
But it's moving in the right direction. And I think, if I was forced to make a prediction over the next couple of years, I think we're going to start to see, I think it's going to come from a younger generation, not an older generation, but I think we're going to start to see a rebellion, and I think we're going to start to see more kids taking time to spend time with their friends and actively putting their phones away when they spend time with each other. I think we're going to start to see more companies passing rules that there's no cell phones in conference rooms for any meetings. I think we're going to start seeing more restaurants banning cell phones in their restaurants. We're practicing as a service to others. And this is what we've forgotten. All of these things, our desperate need to engage with somebody who's not at the table at the expense of the friend who is at the table. Our need to check the email in the meeting before the meeting gets started at the expense of our colleagues and co-workers in the meeting. Our desperate need to feel present for ourselves at the expense of our friends and our family and the people we love. And we have to remember that we do these things for others. We've forgotten the value in the act of service.
My friend, I have a goal for 1,000 subscribers. So like and subscribe, and you will get more motivation videos.